Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College and Career Pathways, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we provide you with information on various colleges and universities, financial aid resources, training programs, technical schools, skilled trade professions, all designed to help you make the best career decisions possible. I'm Toni Cureton, your host, and today we are with the Department of Treasury, and they are going to be talking about FAFSA 101. Thanks so much, Felicia. We're so glad to have you back.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to present this, very valuable information.
Good deal, good deal.
Go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So I will go ahead and shut my camera off just so I'm not distracting for one. And then sometimes too, that helps the internet run well. So again, my name is Felicia Pelto from the State of Michigan Department of Treasury, also known as My Student Aid, my department is. And our goal is to try and make college accessible, affordable, and attainable. Like Toni said, or Ms. Cureton said, it's Financial Aid 101. And the things we're going to talk about are the institutions you're going to consider, the types of financial aid that's out there, how the FAFSA is the root of all of it. And once you've finally done FAFSA, the federal and state programs that'll come from it, MISSG, which is our state portal for students to get into and verify their eligibility. And then, of course, scholarships. And then if there are any questions, Q&A, but those can also be, emailed to me later. So institutions you're considering, of course, you should be looking at all three: community colleges, public colleges, and universities, as well as private. But the main thing you're going to notice is that the average COA, also known as cost of attendance, increases as you, kind of go to those universities. Your community college, because it's community-based, is essentially made to be affordable. And so don't think that price has anything to do with quality, because it doesn't. You just want to make sure that those classes transfer to whatever public or private university you're thinking about going to later. If you're thinking about trades, I always suggest looking at a community college, because many of those have those. As you can see, they offer associate degrees, certificates, and licensing programs. And then if you're looking at getting your bachelor's degree, that's when you want to look at these later too. The reason their cost of attendance is so much higher is specifically because they're anticipating you living on campus. So they're being housing and food expense. But this is when you're looking at getting your bachelor's degree, or even further than that, a master's or even a PhD. We like to show this slide here. It's from the Federal Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and they're essentially just kind of showing that on average, the higher education you have, the higher average weekly wage you can anticipate, as well as the higher education you have, the less likely you are to be unemployed. And so I also like to remind students too, because there's been kind of this higher education versus, higher education versus trade. And I never like to think of those as a versus, because we need each other. Everyone needs someone that has a degree, as well as everyone needs somebody that has a good trade skill. So I like to use the example of a friend of mine who's went through his journeymanship, and he's a master electrician. Well, technically, he was in school or getting his trade experience for like 5 years. So based on educational standards, he's technically a master, that, they call him a master electrician. So he's got the equivalent of a master's degree in electricianship, for lack of a better word for it. So that's where I like to say it's not always the degree, but it's the amount of education that you have. So then there's the types of financial aid. So there's free money, earned money, and borrowed money. Free money are those scholarships. Of course, here we're saying merit-based, but there's ones that are identity-based. And when I say identity, it's like if you're a freshman or a senior in high school right now, there's scholarships specifically for you as a senior in high school, as well as for you as a freshman in college, sophomore, etc. As well as identity-based, as I like to think about your program of study, because that's an identity, right? Whether you're a business student, an engineering student, there are scholarships specific to those particular degrees or identities, as I'm telling you. There's grants, of course, those are considered need-based. And then there's earned money, which is work study. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but essentially it can help you pay towards your tuition and fees or any cost towards going to school, as well as borrowed money. And I know this has been getting some news, headway in the news, but student loans, just like mortgages, car loans, student loans have their purpose of helping us get something we want to get, an investment in ourselves to get to where we want to be. So I'm going to show you or talk to you about how to make sure that loans, when you accept or decline them, you have that power for one, but you can also consider whether or not you'll earn enough after college to be able to pay that loan off and have a manageable debt, because regardless, loans do need to be repaid with interest. Then there are 4 sources of financial aid: the federal government, the state government, which is where I hail from, the institutions, colleges, and universities themselves, as well as private or third party. So I like to say anywhere you eat, work, live, or play, anywhere you see money exchange, there's potential for some scholarship dollars. So be sure to ask your parents about associations, foundations, clubs, employers, churches, unions, or anything they can think of as well. Their employers, for example. Then there is the FAFSA. So that's the free application for federal student aid. You do have to make sure you register for an FSA ID to ensure that you are able to create this login that you'll have to use forever. And when I say forever, it's just for every year you anticipate going to college. Your parents, if they went to college, they probably had a PIN number, which will get turned into this FSA ID. But crazy to think, if you become a parent one day, many years down the line, this will be the same ID that you'll use to help your students go to college. So, because it's linked to you through your social security number, name, and date of birth. So it can't be given or assigned to someone else. It's linked to you through those things. And then with starting the FAFSA, you're going to go to FAFSA.gov, of course. Start here, and there it'll give you the option of creating your FSA ID if you don't already have one. And then, of course, if you need assistance or support, the Federal Student Aid Office has their call center. They have hours Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to midnight, Saturdays 8 to 5, and then Sundays noon to 6. You can also give them a call at their 1-800-4FED-AID line, as well as on their website. There is a really useful chat feature to help you along as well. And then some facts about the FAFSA. It can be completed 100% online. It's actually preferred. Avoid being scammed, because remember that first F stands for free application for federal student aid. And that it must be completed every single year. So every year you think you're going to go to school, you want to make sure to complete your FAFSA. State of Michigan, we have our deadline of May 1st for priority consideration. And then for you seniors this year, the application opened up October 1st. But for you juniors, it's going to be October 1st of next year that we're going to open the application. Well, not us, but the federal government. And then improvements, of course, have been made to it. So you can use the IRS data retrieval tool, which should match your information 100% in order for it to work. That's social security number, name, and date of birth. Once you complete the FAFSA, you'll get something known as an EFC, an estimated family contribution. And what this number is it helps to determine the different types of financial aid that you're eligible for. This doesn't mean the amount of money you have to pay, even though estimated family contribution unfortunately does sound like it's money that you expect to contribute, right? And then the variables that impact the EFC are student and parent income, family household size, number in college, and then the amount paid in taxes. Now, of course, we do get a lot of questions about independent students. And so in short, if the student isn't at least 24 years of age, married, have children or dependents other than a spouse, aren't a graduate student, a veteran, a member of the armed forces, experienced time in foster care, are not an emancipated minor, experience some homelessness or at risk of not being with housing or some other unique circumstance, the student is unfortunately not considered an independent student. So then you might be wondering what parent or which parent's information would I be using? Well, if your parents are married to each other, naturally you're going to use both parents' information. If your parents are legally separated or divorced, then you're going to use whoever has custody over you as the student. If let's say you have a single parent and then they end up getting married, you're going to use your parent and your step parents' information, because in the eyes of the government, they are now a unit and are your family members, are your parental units. And then parents that were never married and not living together, naturally you're going to use whoever has custody over you. And then parents who were never married but are living together, so in the eyes of everyone, onlookers assume that they're married, then you're going to use both parents' information. Now, there is something known as professional judgment. I was kind of alluding to this when I talked about the independent student. If they have some unique or special circumstance that they need to have reviewed to essentially recalculate their financial aid package, you do have to talk to the financial aid office at your college or university that you're planning on going to. They're going to be the ones at the end of the day to make the decision for whether or not you'd be eligible for a recalculation in your financial aid. However, there are some special circumstances that we know that they would consider, such as a change in income or household size, or dependency override as a result of family breakdown. Unfortunately, due to an unfortunate circumstance such as abuse or neglect, being at risk of being homeless, or some other circumstance that you have official documentation for. However, financial reliance, tax filing status, academic term residency, none of that stuff will qualify for a dependency override consideration. Now, assuming you can get through all that hoopla when it comes to the FAFSA and you get an award package, these are the federal aid programs you may be considered for, or you will be considered for. So there's the federal Pell Grant, which is the largest federal grant that exists. The Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, also known as FSEOG, Federal Work Study. There's the Teacher Education Assistance for Higher Education TEACH Grant, Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, the Federal Direct Subsidized and Unsubsidized Loan, as well as the Federal Direct Plus Loan. Now, federal grants do not have to be repaid, but federal loan funds do need to be repaid, and again, with interest. Now, the Pell Grant is the largest federal grant that exists, and it does require a FAFSA to be considered for it. Families that make less than $27,000 are automatically considered, are automatically receive a 0 EFC, which means that their college-bound student would be eligible for the maximum amount of federal Pell Grant funding. So not this year, not the 23-24 graduating class, but for students who are currently in school right now, the maximum Pell Grant is the $68.95 that you see on screen here. And what that means is that a student that is going full-time to school, full-time meaning 12 credits or more, will get half of this amount for the fall and half for the winter semester. Now, I say all this to say, if you remember at the very beginning when I was showing the cost of college, you'll notice that this $68.95 doesn't even match that $18,000 that we saw for our community college. So again, I say all that to say, even the poorest of us can't depend on just one resource to assist us with going to college. We have to dig into all the different resources in order to fill that cost of attendance. So then there's federal work study. Now, this is a grant also that allows you to find part-time employment on college. So keep in mind, you can get part-time employment even without work study. However, work study is nice because it helps pay the wages of the student. So when it comes to you reporting this later, there's actually a special area that you would post it for need-based employment. And you can use this money to pay for your remaining tuition fees and campus charges, books and supplies, personal miscellaneous expenses such as transportation. But keep in mind too, this doesn't guarantee you a job. What this does is it allows you to be more marketable by the employer, because the government will pay part of your wage with this grant program. So you still have to find the job, interview for it, accept it, and be successful in that job. Then there's federal student loans. There's subsidized, unsubsidized, and then plus. Now, subsidized are the better ones because the government pays the interest while you're in school. So I always like to say subsidized, they sub in for you when it comes to interest. For unsubsidized, they do not sub in for you, therefore meaning that you pay interest the moment it pays towards anything on your account. And then if you're going to a pretty expensive school, they're going to throw in Parent Plus loans as a suggested form of funding and say, hey, have your parent borrow some money so that you can go to school too. Keep in mind that all of these are optional. You do not have to take them. And it's best to make sure and, plan it out and see if you can. So let's talk about that next. So some factors to consider when taking out a loan. Make sure that your monthly loan payment doesn't exceed 10% of your estimated take-home pay your first year after graduating. So when I mentioned the Federal Bureau of Labor and Statistics, you want to go out to their website, and if you're looking at a specific degree or career, you want to look at those areas and see what the estimated income is so that you can predict whether or not you're going to earn enough. So in this example, if someone earned $3,000 a month, they don't want their payment to be more than $300 a month. So then another projection you can do is make sure that your total loan debt doesn't exceed your annual salary. So in this example, $45,000 salary, then don't exceed that by getting any more than $45,000 in loans. And then when it comes to loan repayment or forgiveness options, there's what's known as public service loan forgiveness, there's teacher loan forgiveness, as well as income-driven loan repayment. Meaning if you make less than what you anticipated and unfortunately borrowed a little bit more, they'll consider your income to make those payments realistic and affordable. So then there's my Office of Student Scholarships, Grants, and Outreach. This year we appropriated over $220 million for 7 different state financial aid programs, all of which are for undergraduate students and most of which are need-based. These are our different programs. So Children of Veterans Tuition Grant, Fostering Future Scholarship, Michigan Competitive Scholarship, Michigan Tuition Grant, Police Officers and Firefighters Survivor Tuition Grant, the Tuition Incentive Program, and Michigan Reconnect. Oh, and the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. My apologies, I thought I clicked through. For all of our scholarships and grants, Michigan residency is a requirement. Of course, U.S. citizenship, permanent residency, or approved refugee status. A free application for federal student aid, of course, and usage and approved Michigan College or University. So unfortunately, you can't take it with you. You do have to enroll at least half-time, and make sure you graduate with your high school diploma, certificate of completion, or its recognized equivalent. And then I always say meet satisfactory academic progress institutional standards, which in short means attend classes, get the required GPA, minimum, GPA required. I always say 2.0 is a minimum, but don't aim for that. And if you think you're going to fail or have to withdraw from a class, talk to not only the teacher or professor, your academic advisor, as well as your financial aid office as well. As I mentioned, May 1st is the deadline for the state of Michigan. And the way we know where to send your money is going to be based on your college order on your FAFSA. So it's going to be the first Michigan school on your FAFSA that we're going to send that money to. But if you decide to go to a different school, you can always update your FAFSA, go through your MISSG student portal and update that, or contact customer care, our customer care office at the number provided, which will also be again provided at the end. So this year, new is the, my apologies, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And so students, seniors this year will be eligible for this. If you go to a community college, you can get up to $2,750 for your community college, up to $5,500 for your public college or university, or up to $4,000, my apologies, $4,000 per year at private or independent colleges or universities. And it does require a FAFSA, as you've heard me say kind of repeatedly for all these things, and your EFC can be $25,000 or less. The tuition incentive program, which is our largest program as of date. And what that program is for eligible students who have or have had Michigan Medicaid coverage for 24 out of 36 months between the ages of 9 and high school graduation. And we get a roster from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to determine who those students are. There's no special application needed. You do have to complete high school or its recognized equivalent before the age of 20. Or if you decide to go to middle college or early college, then you got to graduate before the age of 21. And then you also have to begin using your benefits within 4 years of high school graduation. And there's 2 phases to TIP. Oh, and then my last point, if you begin taking those classes within 4 years, you've got 10 years before those benefits are exhausted. There's 2 phases. Phase 1, I call your associate and certificate degree phase. So if you decide to go to your local in-district community college, we give you full tuition and then up to $250 in mandatory fees per semester. If you decide to go to your Michigan Public University, again, phase 1, you have to be working on an associate or certificate degree. We again will pay tuition, the lower level resident rate of tuition, and up to $250 in mandatory fees. And then if you decide to go to a private or independent college and university, we'll pay the average cost of community college in district rate, which this year is $122 per credit hour and up to $250 in mandatory fees per semester. Phase 2 is what I call your bachelor's degree phase. And so once you get into that bachelor's degree phase or your junior, senior year, you'll get $500 per semester for your junior and senior year. And then MISSG is our student portal. So to create an account, you do have to have your social security number and either a current year FAFSA or a TIP record on file. And so by creating that portal, it allows you to apply for various scholarships with us, receive important communication regarding your awards and eligibility, confirm eligibility status, update your contact information with us, see the payment status on some items, as well as email us at My Student Aid. And going to our website, of course, you can see publications, more details about all of our programs and eligibility criteria, some scholarship searching best practices, but as well as our scholarship search tool. So if you end up going to that, you choose your county, generate a PDF, and then it'll show you all the different scholarships that you're eligible for in your area. If you do have any questions, again, you can give us a call at this number here or email us. But last but not least, I want to thank you for allowing me to present to you today. Again, my name is Felicia Palto with My Student Aid, and we hope to make college accessible, affordable, and attainable.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Felicia. We appreciate your time. Excellent presentation as always. I'm going to ask if there are any questions. You can feel free to unmute and ask, or if you prefer, you can type them in the chat and I'll be happy to read them.
Yeah.
Well, all right, then if there aren't any questions or comments, then we will bring this um, episode of College and Career Pathways to a close. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Felicia, for the excellent presentation on FAFSA 101. And everybody have a great day.
All right, take care, everybody.